Whether or not you agree that climate change is real, there's no question that our weather has been crazy. Some parts of the US that for years have been facing painful droughts suddenly found themselves facing equally painful rainfall and flooding. But experts warn that the recent record rain probably won't provide permanent relief. So despite having almost full reservoirs today, drought is still a very real concern for the future. And not just in the United States, but around the world. That's why the work by a young scientist in California is so important. Ava tells us more.
In his epic poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, Samuel Coleridge wrote the famous lament, "Water, water, everywhere, nor any drop to drink." It's a complaint even more true today than 200 years ago when Coleridge scratched that line on paper with a feather quill. Although 70% of the Earth's surface is covered with water, 97% of all that water is salt water. Only 3% of the world's water is fresh. But, as they say on TV, wait, there's less. Yes, I said less. That 3% of fresh water isn't spread evenly around the globe. Some people get less than they need, a lot less. That's because half of the world's fresh water is found only in 6 countries: Brazil, Russia, Canada, Indonesia, China, and Colombia. Almost 4 billion people don't have access to sufficient fresh water the whole year round. The blame is shared by climate change, overpopulation, and agriculture. And it's a problem that's only getting worse. Many governments and organizations are raising alarms that almost half of our planet is experiencing deadly drought conditions. Right here at home, the lack of sufficient rainfall in the western U.S. came close to causing the worst drought in more than 1,000 years.
It's the most intense level of drought there is.
The state continues to face extreme drought conditions.
Record-breaking temperatures in other parts of Southern California.
Climate change should be one of our very top priorities because otherwise it's just going to get worse and worse.
This clip is from the short film called Generation Impact: The Scientist. It profiles Emily Tianshi. When she was 13 years old, Emily didn't just want to make people more aware of the world's water crisis. She wanted to do something about it. In the documentary, you described yourself as angry.
Yeah, well, climate change is one of the largest sustainers of socioeconomic and gender inequality, and it affects so many people. Women and girls spend over 200 million hours a day trying to find water, and that's just awful, and we should absolutely be doing something because it is angering.
You live in San Diego, and as we just heard, California is often battling severe droughts. Is that why you decided to research this serious global issue?
I grew up in San Diego during a decade-long drought, so we always had to really carefully ration out our water, and I watched every single blade of grass in the near vicinity die out. But even so, our condition is so much better than what so many others have to experience because at the very least, when I open the tap on the water, I know that there's going to be clean water coming out of it that I can drink and use. So yeah, my growing up in a drought inspired me.
You focused on a tree that seems to have special properties?
Yes, the Torrey pine tree, a brilliant, amazing tree that I love very much. Torrey pine tree grows in San Diego and also the Santa Rosa Islands, and it's pretty well known for its ability to turn the fog in the atmosphere into water for itself.
So you decided to investigate how the needles on the Torrey pine collect and store water. And to do that research, you set up a lab. In your garage?
Yes, garage lab. I was really excited about the Torrey pine tree and I wanted to explore it. So I set up just a very makeshift lab, so to speak, in my garage and started playing around with the needle.
And when you say makeshift, you mean you scrounged up a lot of low-tech household items to help you with your experiments. Tell us about some of the stuff you used.
I have my very beloved $20 microscope called Dinky Donk, and it's survived many years of heavy wear and tear, and I still use it to this day. It's helped me really just get inside the needle, and it was super easy to use, and I love it. Also, just a bunch of random things from around the house. Duct tape will always get a job done well. All sorts of books and cups and little trinkets, even straws and whatnot. Used everything that I could get my hands on.
That enabled you to create a prototype, an early model of a device that harvests moisture, like the pine needle. How does it work?
Rentis is the name of my moisture harvesting device prototype, and it copies an essential property of the Torii pine needle in addition to its general structure. One of the biggest properties that I discovered about the Torii pine tree is that the needles are alternating hydrophilic and hydrophobic. And that sounds really complicated, but it's really not. So the needles are water loving as a whole. If you think of a material like cotton or a piece of paper, it soaks in water, and the needles are really similar. But it also has stripes on the needle that are hydrophobic, which are water repelling. So if you think of, say, like wax or a piece of plastic, perhaps, those are hydrophobic because they reject water. And that allows it to condense water really well and also to release water really well. So it has a nice flow to it, so to speak. And I'm trying to copy that in my micropattern device.
Besides working to get your prototype patented, tell us about the organization you started.
Clearwater Innovation is an organization that I founded with my brother, Kyle, and it generates awareness of the global water crisis, and it also encourages students to conduct environmental research from garage labs. So we're an excellent team of students, a lot of whom have experience in garage lab research and are all very passionate about the environment. And you can find more on clearwaterinnovation.org.
Do you think that the global water crisis can be solved? And do you think we teens will play a big role in that?
You know, I think we have no choice but to believe that it will be solved, because if we think that it's unsolvable, no one will have an incentive to do anything for it. We'll give in to despair, and we just simply can't afford to do that when so many people around the world are suffering. And we can't afford to do that when so many people around the world are suffering from a lack of clean water. And because of that, in spite of the challenges, we teens will play a big role. We have the capabilities to do something, we have the great ideas, and we have something meaningful to contribute. So absolutely, teens will play a big role, and we will solve this thing.
Sure hope so. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you so much.
As you heard, Emily set up her lab in her garage. In fact, many famous companies started in garages. For example, Disney, Apple, Microsoft, as well as the company that's funding the Generation Impact series, tech giant HP. Each episode of Generation Impact features a young inventor using technology to make the world a better place. For Teen Kids News, I'm Ava.